The Artist Spotlight, shining a spotlight on Christian artists, their music and their hearts.
Welcome to the Artist Spotlight. Wayne Hindson with you today. Our guest is a new artist that you might not know too much about, but we're going to delve into his story. His name is Mike Rathke, and he joins us on the phone right now from Florida. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Wayne?
I'm doing very well. Hey, we are in the middle of this pandemic known as COVID-19. I thought, let's start there, Mike. How does it kind of look different for you than maybe, say, like a month or two ago?
Well, it's definitely hit the United States pretty hard, too. We're in Florida, so it's not as bad as in some parts of the country, but it's definitely having an effect on just your day-to-day activities. You know, everything's pretty well shut down, and I'm working from home now. Our offices are closed, and so my everyday job, we're working remotely from home, and definitely comes with some trials for sure.
Yeah, it certainly does. And trials really, Mike, one of the things that you grew up knowing all about trials, and I thought because it's the first time we've had a chat with you, we might just sort of introduce your story. Tell us how music became a thing for you, because you really grew up in a home that was fractured.
Yeah, for sure. Music was always a big part of my life. My mother was really heavily into music, and so was my biological father as well. But I grew up with my mother and a stepfather and two siblings. And we lived in a rural trailer court in Kansas, and our mom had a lot of mental illness. She suffered from schizophrenia for as far back as I could remember. So music was a definite outlet for me. I started playing guitar. I had a friend that moved in next door who played guitar, and he kind of got me started on that. And it really became an outlet for me. I'd spend a lot of times during the day, if I wasn't in school, I'd spend most of my day just playing guitar. And it really always felt like it was a gift from God to be able to just to have something to kind of help to cope with things, and it was always a great outlet.
And really, it was someone, I guess, gave you a guitar. I think it was at 16, wasn't it? An electric guitar that really sort of got you on the start of this musical journey. Do you kind of look back at those times now and go, that was such a great investment, that this friend made in terms of this Christmas present?
Yeah, for sure. I was staying with some friends at that time, and they were a few years older than me, and one of them, his name was Chris, and he really kind of had a paternal feeling towards me. He was always kind of made sure I had a place to stay, and for Christmas when I turned 16, he surprised me and gave me my first electric guitar, and that was really a big thing because it wasn't like making a lot of money or anything, but he just wanted to invest in me, and I always appreciated that. The Lord always made sure that there was people that were looking out for me. I was never flying solo, as it were.
The thing that I find very interesting, Mike, on reflection, you can see God's hand here and God's hand there. But at the time, 16, when you received that guitar, you weren't saved. Christ wasn't your saviour. That was to come, I think, 3 years down the track. So kind of journey with us, if you can, from 16 through to 19 and becoming a Christian.
I actually went forward at a vacation Bible school when I was about 13 and, asked Jesus into my heart, But that was kind of the end of it. I didn't really know anybody that was going to church or that was following Christ, so it just kind of laid stagnant. But even through those times, I always felt like the Lord was there, and he would kind of pull back the reins if I started to get too far out there, And so I always had that knowledge of God walking with me through things, but it wasn't until I was about 19 that I really felt like he wanted more from me. He didn't want me to say another prayer. He didn't want me to, say the sinner's prayer again. He was definitely calling me to a deeper level of commitment with him. When I was 19, I was working for a groundskeeping company. Actually, it was at a cemetery of all places. And I just kind of found myself listening to Christian radio, which for me at that time was just unheard of. I just felt compelled to listen to it. And then one day I was walking home from work, and I felt like the Lord said, you need to stop into this Bible bookstore and pick up a Bible and just start reading it. And that was really a pivotal moment for me, because as I spent time in the Word, just me and the Bible, there just became a deeper love for the Word and a deeper understanding of who God was. And as a result of this, the Lord began to kind of file things out and make me, cause me to make different decisions and different path choices. And it's been a course correction ever since. I've just constantly been walking with him and him steering me,
I think daily, I don't know about you, Mike, but for me, daily, it's like a course correction. It's kind of like, hey, Wayne, let's get back on track. Let's get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you ever feel like you're done with that course correction, then there's something not right.
The Artist Spotlight.
As I've been running in circles, trying to find your face, but all along you've been with me, but I forgot to taste. And oh, you have been faithful all of my days, and so many ways, and I can recall the times you were reminding me to taste and see that you're good. And I love the way you walk in the room and all things are new. And I love the way take all my cares and my fears away with just one taste. Cause I've been running in circles, trying to find your face, when all along you've been with me, but I forgot to taste. And oh, you have been faithful all of my days, and so many ways, and I can recall the times you were reminding me to taste and see that you're good. Oh, you have been faithful for all of my days, and in so many ways, and I can recall the times you were reminding me to taste and see that you're good. I love the way you walk in the room and all things are new. And I love the way you take all my cares and my fears away with just one taste. With one taste. Just one taste, one taste.
Welcome back to the Artist Spotlight. Wayne Hindson with you today. We are introducing you to a new artist by the name of Mike Rathke. He's got an EP out called The Dawning Fire. Hey Mike, at that time, so you start leading worship at 19, and God's really talking to you. You're getting into the Word and that kind of stuff. Was there ever a thought at that time that you'd be at a point where you're actually writing and releasing music? Was that kind of in seed form at that point of time?
I always sort of knew that was what I was supposed to be doing, but I never really felt like God had opened up the door for that time to happen yet. I always felt like he was just saying, be patient and just serve me where you're at, and I'll open those doors when it's the right time. And it goes in my early 30s. I went to Christ for the Nations in Dallas, Texas. I had every intention when I got there, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to try to get on the praise band, because this is where all this great stuff's happening with worship. But when I got there, I felt like the Lord said not to even try out for the praise team. So I went to the school of worship, and I served on the worship team there. But it just didn't feel like it was the right time, and the Lord was kind of pulling me back and just saying, just be patient and serve. I'm refining you. I'm working in you, and And so I've just kind of always tried to live by that. And it seems like here in this past year or so, like the Lord's really just started to open up doors that I never would have tried to open up on my own. And I said once in an interview before, I haven't even put my hand on the door handle. I just been like being patient and let the Lord open doors as He sees fit. And it's been a really interesting past year. The Lord really seems to be doing some great things right now.
Yeah, and one of those things for you, which I'm sure is kind of a sense of achievement, maybe a sense of relief as well, is the release of The Dawning Fire. It is your first EP my understanding is the first EP you've recorded in inverted commas, a proper studio. Kind of run us through the journey to get to that point.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. Even in that process, the Lord was putting His fingerprint on things as we were going. The morning of the first day in the studio, we went to Nashville, and I woke up in the morning and looked at my phone, and I saw an old Facebook memory that popped up. It was from 4 years prior, this memory was, and it said, on this day, 18 years ago, I said, okay, Jesus, I'll follow you. And that was a memory from 4 years ago. So basically, what I saw was that day before I went into the studio, the Lord showed to me that it was on the anniversary of my salvation. There was so much going on that weekend that it just slipped my mind. But the first day in an actual studio happened to be on the 22nd anniversary of my coming to Christ. And I thought, wow, I mean, how awesome is it that the Lord would show me that at just that time, just to kind of reinforce the fact that He's doing something really cool here. So that started the whole weekend, and that was just such a great way to start the weekend, just to know that I'm walking with Jesus, and He's putting His fingerprint on this whole weekend. And so it was amazing, and there were several things like that happened throughout the weekend. Yeah, it was amazing.
We are chatting with Mike Rathke about his EP, The Dawning Fire. Now, one of the songs I was interested to know why you included this one, Mike. It's the Keith Green classic, Oh Lord, You're Beautiful. Is this a song somewhere across life's journey for you that has a real special meaning?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started leading worship, Keith Green was one of the worship leaders that my pastor at the time had introduced me to. And I wasn't raised in the church side. I wasn't really aware of him, but I instantly was drawn to just the boldness that he had in his songwriting, and so I've always had a huge appreciation for Keith Green. And I've done Oh Lord, You're Beautiful throughout the years in churches, and Brandon Bailey, who kind of oversaw this whole project, he suggested, he said, you really should do Oh Lord, You're Beautiful. And I said, oh, if we have time, we'll do it. And so we ended up having time, so we recorded it. But one of the cool things about that weekend is when we went back to the hotel, we got a text message from somebody that said, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but you guys just recorded Oh Lord, You're Beautiful on the 37th anniversary of Keith Green's passing. So we looked it up, and we're like, oh, man, there's no way you could have planned for that. But that was just another one of those examples from that weekend where the Lord was putting His fingerprint on the whole project, that He was guiding it and that He was directing our steps in what we were doing. And we were just blown away by it. But I've always loved Keith Green, and I've always loved that song. And so it's really got a special place in my heart. And the original version of Keith Green's Oh Lord, You're Beautiful, he actually wrote 4 verses. And most people only know of the 2 that you normally hear, but we included the 3rd verse on our rendition of it, and it was just a great weekend and a great song to record.
So, Mike, can I ask why you didn't include the 4th verse as well?
Well, we had thought about it, but the song was already over 4 minutes, and so we thought, well, let's just dial it back a little bit. But when we do it live, I do all 4 verses when I do it live.
The Artist Spotlight.
Oh Lord, You're beautiful. Your face is all I seek, and when your eyes are on this child, your grace abounds to me. I want to take your word and shine it all around. First help me just to live it, Lord. And when I'm doing well, help me to never seek a crown, for my reward is giving glory to you. Oh Lord, my body's tired to keep reminding me of many holy, tireless men who spilled their blood for thee. I want to take your word and shine it all around. First tell me just to live it, Lord. And when I'm doing well, help me to never seek a crown, for my reward is given glory. Oh Lord, please light the fire that once burned bright and clear, and replace the lamp of my first love that burns with holy fear. I want to take your word and shine it all around. First tell me just to live it, Lord. And when I'm doing well, help me to never seek a crown, for my reward is given glory. For my reward is given glory to you. Oh, my reward is given glory to you.
Welcome back to the Artist Spotlight. Our guest today is Mike Rathke, a relatively new artist from Florida, USA. Now, Mike, one of the songs which is on your EP, The Dawning Fire, is called Every Era. And I wonder here on the Artist Spotlight if you could kind of just share with us your heart behind this particular song.
So I wrote Every Era while I was still leading worship in Kansas, and this was before I went to Christ for the Nations. But I had a job where I had to get up pretty early in the morning, and I remember one morning I got up and it was still dark. I was just drinking coffee and listening to a song by Matt Redman. And as I was sitting there, I kind of just had this picture kind of play out before my eyes. I had my eyes closed. And, you know, I don't really tell people that it was a vision from the Lord or anything, but it was just this image kind of came into my mind. And in this image, there was a congregation before a platform, and on the platform there were musicians of all kinds. There were cellists and violinists. Everyone was worshiping the Lord. And then after a few minutes of that, Jesus came out and sat on the throne. And when he sat down, all the musicians left the congregation, or left the platform, and joined the congregation. And then that was sort of the end of it. But it really stuck with me, and I wrote that song around that same time, maybe a week or two after that. But it's been a song that I've always played in churches, and it's always had a special place in my heart. And I think the biggest emphasis on it is the fact that, one, is that the body of Christ is so much larger than we can even imagine. It broadcasts throughout all of history, you know, from the day that God breathed into Adam to today. And so one day there'll be a day where we all stand together side by side and worship the Lord. And the second thing is this, that sometimes, especially as worship leaders, it's easy for us to get our focus off track and forget that there's really not to be anybody on the platform of our hearts but Jesus. And sometimes as worship leaders we can get we can get kind of sidetracked on, the arrangements of songs and just making sure everything sounds great. And if you're not careful, you miss the point of worship, and worship becomes an end to itself,
Hey, as we finish our chat with Mike Rathke today, I'm wondering, with regards to the EP, The Dawning Fire, and your ministry in terms of music, Mike, what's your hope in your heart for people that are finding you and finding, your songs and listening to your music? What's the takeaway that you hope they would get?
Honestly, I just hope that those songs that are included would be, Hebrews says to spur one another on towards love and good deeds. And if we can do that in a creative way, and, for me, worship music sometimes is one of those things that spurs me on and just gives me just inspiration to run harder after Jesus. And so that's really my hope for this EP, is that the listener would hear it, maybe see another angle of who God is, and just follow after him harder and surrender more of themselves to him in the process of listening.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Mike Rathke, thank you so much for spending some time with us at Rhema 99.7. Been great to hear your story, get to know you. We wish you all the very best with The Dawning Fire, your EP, available at all the usual channels, and hopefully you'll be back out on the road and playing some shows not too far away.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I hope so.
One day we'll stand before you, Lord, there with palm branches in hand, clothed in white robes. A mighty song voicing your praise from the mouths of every culture, nation and tongue. Nation and tongue. Musicians join the congregation. The King takes the stage, and every knee will bow and tongue confess a new song of praise. An orchestra composed of worshipers from every era. From every era. One day we'll stand before your throne, who made my faith, and in that day will make it complete. And I'll take the crown off of my brow and kneel before the one who wore a crown of thorns for my soul. Musicians join the congregation. The King takes the stage, and every knee will bow and tongue confess a new song of praise. An orchestra composed of worshipers from every era. From every era. We'll sing holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and who is. Yes, the Lord, he will always be here. Holy, every error.
This has been the Artist Spotlight. To hear the rest of this conversation, join us on Saturday at 12:15 right here on Rhema FM, or catch up online at rhemacatchup.com.